It's 4:59 in the morning. He's lying in the dark with his eyes open, waiting for the alarm. He always wakes up 1 minute early. It's a small private victory he gives himself every day. He turns it off before it makes a sound. The room stays silent. His wife is sleeping next to him. He doesn't look at her. Cold shower. 40 seconds timed. He feels the air freeze in his lungs and something in him smiles. This pain is his. He built the capacity to take it. Nobody handed it to him. Black coffee. No sugar. 20 pages of Marcus Aurelius, underlined. 1 hour of training, no music, no distraction. Deep work from 7 to 11. Phone face down across the room. He has done this every single day for 4 years and last night. His wife said something to him at dinner. Something he can't get out of his head, she said. I don't know who you are anymore. He laughed. She wasn't joking, and now he's lying here at 5 in the morning staring at the ceiling for the first time in 4 years. And one question is cutting through him like a blade. How is it possible that everything worked, and something is still completely wrong? This video is about that question, because what happened to this man isn't failure. He didn't fail. He did everything they told him would work. He applied the discipline. He built the character. He won. So why is he alone? The answer is going to land hard if you're the kind of man who has built something through sheer force of will. Because there is something nobody told you about discipline. Something the Stoic tradition understood. Something modern psychology is slowly rediscovering. And something the Christian tradition named 2,000 years ago with a precision that's almost surgical. There is a kind of discipline that builds the man. And there is another kind of discipline, externally identical, that quietly destroys the man it promised to build. And the most disturbing part of all of this, you cannot tell them apart from the outside. And most of the time, you can't tell them apart from the inside either. Until it's too late. Come back with me a few years. In his case, 5 years ago, he was a different person. 29 years old. Married for 3 years, working a job that paid the bills and was killing him slowly, drinking more than he should. He'd put on 25 pounds since the wedding. He fought with his wife about things he couldn't even remember the next morning. He lied about deadlines at work and told himself it didn't matter. He hated himself, quietly, deeply. And then he found the content. You know exactly what content I'm talking about. The bearded men with deep voices talking about waking up early. The clips of Marines screaming about discipline. The Stoics. The habit books. The tracking spreadsheets. The whole ecosystem that tells a tired man one beautiful sentence. You can build yourself, and it's true. You can. He started small. Up 30 minutes earlier. A walk 10 pages a day. No beer on weeknights. Each small win opened the next one. In 3 months he was training. In 6, the weight was gone. In a year, he was unrecognizable. His wife was thrilled. His friends were impressed. Work started going right. He got promoted. The money got better. And here is the part no motivational video will ever tell you. Somewhere between year 2 and year 3, something turned. It wasn't visible. It wasn't dramatic. There was no exact moment. It was like a light slowly dimming in a room, so slowly that you don't notice. Until someone walks in from outside and asks why it's so dark in here. The discipline that had once saved him had become something else, and this is the moment where this story stops being about him and starts being about you, because you've probably tried to name what's wrong. More than once. The first thing you tried was more discipline. If you feel empty even though you're doing everything right, it must be because you're not doing enough. Wake up earlier. Train harder. Read more books. Eat cleaner. Cut more friends out. You doubled down on the very thing that was hurting you, because it was the only tool you trusted. It didn't work. It got worse. So you tried the second thing. Psychological framing. You went looking for language. Maybe it's burnout. Maybe it's high-functioning depression. Maybe it's unresolved trauma. Maybe it's a dopamine problem. You read the articles. Maybe you saw a therapist. Some things got clearer. But the vertigo didn't go away. Because somewhere deep down you knew this wasn't the whole picture. You knew there was something wrong with you that wouldn't fit inside any clinical diagnosis, so you tried the third thing. Philosophy. You went back to the Stoics with real seriousness this time. Marcus Aurelius Epictetus Seneca. They talk about temperance, about the dichotomy of control, about not chaining yourself to what is outside you. You took the tools and you applied them, and philosophy gave you clarity. But it didn't give you peace, because the Stoics describe with perfect accuracy what can go wrong inside a man. But what they offer as the cure is essentially this: think more clearly, be more rational. Remember, you're going to die. And for most men, in most moments, that is not enough. You are exhausted from trying to think your way out. You wanted something deeper than better thinking. And this is where most men give up and slide back into mediocrity. They go back to alcohol, to pornography, to endless scrolling, to anything that at least numbs the ache. At least I felt something before I got disciplined, they tell themselves. At least I was alive. But there is a fourth possibility almost nobody seriously considers. And it lives somewhere else entirely. Before I show you where, let me warn you about something. What comes next is going to sound simple. It's going to sound small. You're going to want to dismiss it as something you already know. You don't. If you knew it, you wouldn't be here. And if it turns out to be true, if what I'm about to tell you is actually true, then everything you've built up to this point is going to need to be reconsidered. Not destroyed, reconsidered from the foundation. Stay with me. The question nobody asks about discipline is the simplest question of all. Discipline for what? Wait, don't answer fast. I know you have a clean answer ready. To become better. To reach my goals. To be free. To master myself. Look at those answers again. They all have something in common. They all end at you. Discipline so that you can be better, so that you can be free, so that you can master yourself. You as the beginning, you as the middle, you as the end. And here is the thing that the older tradition understood. A thing so old it sounds banal until you actually hear it. A thing that, if it lands, reorganizes everything. A man who disciplines himself for himself is quietly making himself his own God. Not metaphorically, structurally. He has become the final authority over his own life, the judge of his own standards, the owner of his own goals, the Lord of himself. And it sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds like freedom. Sounds like the peak of modern Western masculinity. But think for 30 seconds about what that actually means in practice. If you are your own owner, then you owe nothing to anyone. Your wife has no authority over you. Your parents have no authority over you. Your friends have no authority over you. Nobody has the right to correct you, because you are the final judge of yourself. And so when correction comes, and it always comes, what do? You explain. You contextualize. You reframe. You point out what they don't understand. You acknowledge in the abstract that you might be wrong, while functionally never being wrong about anything specific. You become, and this is the technical word for it, unreachable. And that's what happened to the man at the start of this video. He didn't become a worse man. He became a more polished, more capable, more impressive man, who nobody could touch anymore. His wife didn't say, "I don't know who you are," because he became cruel. She said it because she couldn't reach him. Every concern she raised, he had a framework for. Every emotion she expressed, he had a stoic response to. Every conflict, he had already processed. He had built a fortress out of virtue. And he was the only one inside it. This is the kind of discipline that destroys you. Not because the practices are wrong. The cold shower isn't wrong. The reading isn't wrong. The training isn't wrong. The foundation is wrong. The discipline is rooted in the self, serving the self, accountable to the self. And a self that answers only to itself eventually becomes a self that can't be reached by anyone, including the people who love it most, including God. The older traditions had a name for this. They didn't call it discipline. They called it pride, and they didn't mean the loud kind that brags. They meant the quiet kind that wears the mask of virtue, the kind that hides inside excellence, the kind that looks from every angle like strength. Now, if you're still with me, I need you to stay sharp for the next part, because this is where the video gets uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you what real discipline is. And it's not what you've been sold. It's older than that, harder than that, and in a way you won't expect, easier than that too. Here is the test, the one that tells you which kind of discipline you actually have, not the test you think. Not whether you can wake up at 5, not whether you can fast for 16 hours, not whether you can sit through the cold shower. Those tests measure capacity. They don't measure foundation. Here is the real test. Can someone who loves you tell you something hard? And can you actually hear it? That's the test. Not in theory. In the actual moment, when your wife says the thing that stings, or your friend points out the pattern, or your father says the sentence you've been avoiding for years. Can you hear it without your inner machinery instantly producing 4 to 7 reasons why they don't fully understand? If you can, your discipline is rooted in something real. It's serving you, but it's not feeding on you if you can't. If every correction has to be filtered, contextualized, half-accepted with a counter-clarification, then what you have isn't discipline. What you have is a beautifully maintained fortress of self. And you are starving inside it. The man at the start of this video failed this test for 4 years without knowing it. His wife had been telling him for 2 years, in different words, in different moments, "You're not here. You're somewhere else. I can't reach you." And every time, he had a response. "I'm working on myself. I'm becoming the man you deserve. I'm building the future for our family." Every word of that was true. And every word of it was a wall. He wasn't lying to her. He was lying to himself, which is, as the philosophers always knew, the worst kind of lying. Because the man who lies to others can still be reached. The man who lies to himself has nowhere left to be reached from. And here is the part that, if you let it land, can actually change something. The way out of this is not more discipline. It's not less discipline either. The way out is a complete change of foundation. Real discipline isn't "I am building myself." Real discipline is "I am not my own." Read that again. Slowly, "I am not my own." It means there is something, or someone, that has a claim on your life that is older and deeper than your own goals. It means your body is not a project. It means your time is not yours to optimize. It means your discipline is not a monument you're building to yourself. It is service to something beyond you. And the second your discipline becomes service instead of self-construction, something strange happens. The same practices stay. You still wake up early. You still read. You still train. You still say no to the things that would make you weak, but the fortress comes down. Because you no longer need to defend a self that you own. You're no longer the final judge. You can be wrong. You can be corrected. You can need help. You can be reached. You become, for the first time in years, a man who can be loved. Go back with me to that bedroom. 5 in the morning. The man staring at the ceiling, he doesn't know any of what I just told you. He just knows something is wrong. He has built everything they told him to build, and his wife is sleeping next to him. And there is more distance between them than there was when he was 30 pounds heavier and drinking too much. He gets up. He doesn't do the routine. He sits on the edge of the bed for a long time, maybe 20 minutes. Long enough that the sun starts coming up. Long enough that his wife starts to stir. She turns over, sees him sitting there, doesn't say anything, and he says, And this is the hardest sentence he's said in 5 years. He says, "I don't know what's wrong with me." That sentence is the beginning of everything. Because for the first time in 4 years, he isn't explaining. He isn't framing. He isn't reaching for a stoic quote. He isn't producing a plan for self-improvement. He is just admitting, out loud, to another human being, that he has come to the end of what he can do alone. That sentence is the first crack in the fortress. The first time anything from outside has gotten in. The first time he has been reachable in years, and his wife, and this is the part that catches him completely off guard. His wife reaches across the bed and takes his hand, without saying a word, because she has been waiting for 4 years for this exact sentence. The one she stopped hoping for somewhere around year 2. This is the moment the real work begins. Not the work of building himself. The work of letting himself be unbuilt and rebuilt on a different foundation. It's going to take years. It's not a montage. Discipline that comes from service instead of self-worship is a slower kind of growth. It looks the same on the outside, but on the inside it's an entirely different organism. And one day, maybe 2 years from this morning, he's going to be at dinner with his wife, and she's going to say something hard, and he's going to feel the old reflex come up, the explanation, the reframe, the wall, and he's going to feel it and not act on it. He's going to take a breath, and he's going to say, "Tell me more." That's it. That's the win, not the cold shower, not the deadlift, not the reading habit. Tell me more. That is what discipline rooted in the right foundation eventually produces. A man who can be reached. A man who can be loved. A man who is no longer his own God, and is therefore, finally, free. You're not going to read about this man in any book. He's not famous. There's no podcast about his transformation. No before and after photos. No course he sells. But there are tens of thousands of men like him. And there are tens of thousands of men who never made it to that morning. Men who kept building the fortress year after year, and ended up 60 years old, divorced, surrounded by their achievements, unreachable, alone. Wondering what happened. You probably know one. Maybe more than one. Maybe you grew up with one in the house. The discipline didn't fail them. The discipline did exactly what it was built to do. It built them into men who didn't need anyone, including the people who needed them. The motivational content industry will not tell you this. It can't. Its entire business model depends on selling you the next layer of self-construction, the next routine, the next protocol, the next system to optimize yourself with. Nobody is going to make money telling you that the foundation under all of it might be broken. That what you actually need is not a better routine, but a different reason for the routine. That the question is not how do I become more disciplined, but whose am I and what is my discipline serving? That second question is older than every motivational guru on earth. Older than Stoicism. Older than psychology. It's the oldest question a man can ask himself. And almost no one is asking it anymore. But you can go back to the question I asked at the beginning of this video: how is it possible that everything worked and something is still completely wrong? Now you have the answer. It's possible because you can build the right things on the wrong foundation. You can run the right system with the wrong operating principle. You can do every external thing that disciplined men do and quietly become a man who can no longer be reached by your wife, by your friends, by your children, by God. And the way out is not more effort. It's a smaller, harder thing. It's admitting out loud to someone that you don't know what's wrong with you. It's letting one wall come down, just one, and seeing what comes through. It's choosing, for the first time, to be a man who is not his own. So here's the question I want you to sit with after this video ends. Not in the comments. In the silence after you close the app. Who, in your life right now, has been trying to reach you for years, and what would it cost you to finally let them in? If you have an answer, leave it in the comments. Not the name, the cost. What would it cost you? That's where the real work starts. A few things worth flagging now that you've read it. The script came in at roughly 17 minutes of narration at a measured contemplative pace, which fits your 15 to 20-minute target. If your delivery is faster, you'll land closer to 14 to 15. I held back from quoting verses, as you asked, but the Christian foundation is unmistakably there. Any Christao Pensanti watching will recognize. I am not my own as a direct echo of the Pauline tradition without ever needing the citation. Anyone outside that tradition will still feel the weight without being alienated. The structure followed your template exactly. Hook with no context. Central question, origin. Failed attempts, rehook, discovery, test, climax, consequences, circular ending that. Returns to the opening question. Rehooks dropped at the 6-minute and 9:30 marks. One thing to consider before you record. The man in the opening is fictional, but he should feel real to you. If something about his routine doesn't match what your audience actually does, if cold showers feel too clitched in Arning Ardo, for example, or if the Marcus Aurelius reference feels overused, swap the details for something more specific to your tribe. The skeleton stays. The flesh can change, if you want. I can also write you a title and thumbnail concept that match the tone of the script. That's where most of the click decision actually happens.